bit about it. As I'm talking and as we're going, again, like I said, I'm pretty informal, so feel free to come off mute or raise your hand or drop questions into the chat. That's great. And also that's going to help us hear more from all of you. What pieces of what we're offering you're particularly interested in. So if there are certain topics you're like, gosh, I really want to deep dive. We want this course to be really useful, and we've designed it for those working in a professional capacity already in coastal climate resilience. And so we're hoping that you'll walk away with some really tangible skills and broaden your networks as well. So it also has been designed with the idea that there will be a mix of folks in the room, from folks who are maybe doing engineering to municipality folks to more regional and local leads. And so really excited to share this endeavor. We've heard from folks that they're interested and excited. But again, feel free to chat questions or raise hands if we're done. Some of the key course outcomes, like I said, we want this, and we've been designing this course to be really practical and give you skills to walk away from the course with, and action steps if you're working in this area. Also, an ability to collaborate and network with a broader range of folks around you and in this space, and to know a bit of where to look if you're just starting out. Maybe you work for a small community and this is the first time you're kind of starting this work in nature-based solutions or resiliency work, and helping you think about how to do that well. Part of how we've structured also our in-person portion, which I'll dive into all the components in a little bit, is that you'll have some time built in to be working towards some action items and things that you'll walk away prepared to sort of take a next step. So that's how we've designed it, and really excited to sort of share after lots of learning and work with folks where we're landing with this. And so we are really curious also, as we're implementing and as we're hearing from you, what got you interested to hear more, and also what would really help you in your day-to-day work. I am also want to share, we're already working with quite a range of experts and folks. I noticed right before we started, we do also have a number of municipality leads and other sort of leaders that this is just a flavor of some of the experts we'll have in the room, but we also have others who are implementing on the ground, who are doing this work day to day. Some of these folks are consultants, some are working on innovations, some are thinking about the financing and support for this kind of work. And so excited to introduce you to a range of experts and build your network as well. We have designed this mostly to be a domestic course at this time. So that is also one thing I want to call out for folks who might be calling in from elsewhere or beyond the US. Most of the course information will be sort of most relevant to a domestic audience, although there are topics and pieces that are sort of universally applicable. Also, Holly, if there's questions, feel free to call it out if I've missed someone asking a question of importance.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. A bit about the course format. This is a hybrid setup in that we will have 8 live online sessions, so sessions that you call in at the same time, you're interacting with our experts, whether that's panels, some lectures, some discussions, some activities, as well as a 2.5-day in-person workshop. Both course components must be attended for credit, and we anticipate both the in-person, the virtual sessions, and any outside work to total about 50 to 60 hours over the 9 weeks of time with the course. So we'll have some weekly readings and some videos for you to review. Some will be things that will set us up for the course that will happen that week. Some are going to be some additional resources that if you want to dive deeper or reflect on later, you'll have the ability to do that too, but they won't be like mandated for that session. Again, all sessions are going to be held on Fridays from 12:30 to 2, except for our workshop, which will be from October 24th to 26th. So that's a Thursday, Friday, and beginning part of a Saturday. And the last class will be November 1st, and that'll be an optional course where we'll have some deep dive onto different tools and also some topics that have come up through the course, and an opportunity to hear more from some key experts in certain areas. So what does that look like? What is this overview each week? What are we talking about? So the very first week, we've designed to really level set, get everyone sort of set. Why are we here? What are some key pieces of coastal resilience and climate change that are important to know, that are cross-cutting and hitting all areas and dimensions? Also, then moving into weeks 2 and 3, that module will be more focused on nature-based solutions. So first, a set of sort of case studies and tools in that arena, and then moving into application, how policies that have been enabling, kind of bringing that to practice. So success stories of doing this work on the ground, and what were those enabling conditions to make that possible. Week 4, we'll be talking about equitable engagement and engaging interested parties. So how do you do that well? What is the different types of engagement? Sometimes that's consultation. Sometimes that's a true partnership from day one, and even before day one, and sort of planning and thinking about new efforts. Week 5, we'll dive into different sources and steps for financing coastal resilience work, including nature-based solutions. And that'll be mostly at a national and state levels. But we are looking into some more specific opportunities as well that we'll showcase there too. The next week, we'll actually dive into more innovations in funding some of this work. We will include folks like Carter Ingram and Guillermo, who I highlighted earlier, who are working on sort of new innovations, whether that's parametric insurance or other tools to make this possible and either bring down the cost of doing some of this work or make it more viable. See, let me check. I see. Oh, perfect. And then the following week, we'll be diving into sort of data sources, other tools and models for coastal climate adaptation. Part of why we're talking financing first and then some of this data pieces is sometimes those two things are pretty interlinked. And so that will be an opportunity to kind of think more deeply and also apply and think about it in your own situation. What are some of those data sources or data points and models that you're needing to actually move this work forward? After that, that'll be our in-person workshop, which will really be tying in everything we've learned to that point, and also a strong focus on bringing that into practice and tying it into some real-world examples. And finally, like I'd said earlier, we'll have an optional sessions on the last week to really engage on demonstration of models and tools and some other topics that have come up as really viable and important for folks. Lost my cursor. This slide just really is to give you guys a sense of what weeks are we meeting, what are the timing. We're aiming for a class size of about 35 folks in the room. And yeah, really excited to sort of broaden who's engaging in this work and the effectiveness folks are having with that. Overall, I think key points to take away in thinking about your engagement in this course, we are really aiming for those who are already currently working in this space. And so we've also designed sort of the 2.5-day workshop to really help folks move the needle on some of the work that they're having. And we aim to have folks be in groups, but working on some specific topics and project work. This is sort of when it'll happen. We'll be hosting you on our Coastal Science campus. This gives you a little flavor of what that'll feel like. Beautiful campus, looks out onto the Monterey Bay area, and we'll be meeting in some of the classrooms in that space. I know I've gone.
I'll just add in here that we have, you know, some networking sessions planned, some working sessions, field trips to look at local examples of some adaptation and resiliency projects. And then, of course, more speakers and experts at your disposal to ask questions of.
Yeah, thanks, Holly. That is the Seymour Center, Sarah. So actually, Holly and I's office look over onto the parking lot across kitty corner to this building. So we get a nice view out to the ocean as well. Uh, but yes, that is the Seymour Center. Um, I know a number of folks who registered highlighted the fellowships or funding as one of their concerns or questions that they had. We do have a limited number of fellowships that are available that will help pay full tuition or partial tuition and possibly some travel and lodging costs for folks. Um, we're particularly interested in supporting tribal members and practitioners and liaisons from underserved communities who are doing this work. If you are interested in this opportunity, please email us at csp@ucsc.edu. And we're happy, if you can give us a little bit of information about who you are, what you're working on, that'll help us as we're determining how we allocate some of our limited fellowships out to prospective practitioners and participants in the course. And then a little bit about registration. You can scan this QR code. There's a $2,500 course registration fee, which goes towards supporting some of the practitioners who are participating in sort of teaching the course and lecturing in the course, as well as just one note though, travel and lodging is an additional cost, so that is something to consider. You would register through our University Extension website, which is, if you scan here, you'll link to that. Yeah, and really the next thing I have is really opening it up to all of you to hear your questions. And so I'll really asking you guys, what questions do you have? What could I dive a little more into? I'm happy to give a little bit deeper sort of learning objectives by week or answer other questions as well. I know that that was fast, so also feel free to ask me to scooch back to other slides. And don't be shy. I won't bite, I swear. My goodness. I answered
What
them all. No,
kinds
just
of,
kidding.
yeah. Thanks so much, Sarah. This is really helpful. And I saw that you said there's like an hour or an hour and a half of work outside of the classes.
Mhm.
Can you say a little bit more about what you anticipate that being? Is
Yeah.
there readings?
Yeah, it'll be a mix of some short videos some weeks, like a 2 to 5 minute shorter video, maybe some specific readings. We might ask you to also add on, there'll be a Canvas site as sort of this platform that we'll use for both sharing the resources that we have for each course week, as well as there's a discussion board there. So sometimes it might be that we'll post a question and say, hey, noodle on this, or it might be a response to a panel we've had and sort of asking folks, hey, what things came up for you? Dive a little deeper into what that brought up for you. Any challenges to that, what was discussed. And so we'll have a bit of dialogue that way, as well as we're trying to be mindful. We know everyone in the course will be working professionals. So that's why we're trying to ensure that the outside work is like an hour and a half each week. Of course, if folks get really excited, you might dive deeper and do more. But we're really structuring it to just be about an hour and a half outside, hour to an hour and a half outside of the class itself.
Yeah,
Does
and I'll
that
just
help?
add on that we will, for every weekly session, have resources posted, and minimal required reading. So just know that, if you're asked to do a certain reading, there will be a lot more there for you to walk away with than just one or two readings. There will always be resources that are designed to help you after the course, to continue, your exploration and your knowledge.
Okay, thank you so much. I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm in Nigeria and I'm currently based in Nigeria. So I don't know. There are virtual classes I'm seeing in-person workshop for the week
Mhm.
8. If I'm
Yeah.
participating, since I'm not in the US, how do I participate in
Yeah. So
in-person workshop?
so I think this version is mostly directed to folks that are domestic, so US based folks. I think it'll be most applicable to that situation. We are looking that future iterations of the course might be more broadly applicable beyond the US. And we may tailor future offerings so that an international audience will get a good base and information to actually take action. Um, I would say this version of the course might not be the best option for you just because of that domestic focus versus international focus. Because all of the sort of fundraising pieces will be really applicable to a US domestic audience versus an international audience at this time.
So when is it next year that outside folks will can be applying?
So we haven't scheduled the next offering just yet. This will be our very first offering of the course. So um, we've tailored it this year and this offering to that audience. But from what we learned from this offering, we'll also be maybe tailoring. It might be in the coming year. We haven't set specific dates for the next offering.
Okay,
Yeah.
because
But we will
actually,
definitely keep, we are taking interest and we'll keep folks abreast of future offerings as well. So it is something that we're keeping tabs on and ensuring that folks will get some of the information. Some of the information will be publicly available after, and so um, we could definitely probably share some of the information that's more applicable to an international audience after the fact. But um, yeah, I don't know that this specific offering will be the best for an international audience.
thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. Christina, I saw you had some questions about what will be offered, like sort of what are some of the learning objectives each week. So happy to sort of talk through some of that. In week 1, again, sort of an overview, um, hearing about core principles. Oh, there's a coyote just walking in front of me. Sorry, guys. The benefit of being outside. Sorry about that. So thinking about week 1 will be sort of core principles of coastal adaptation, um, talking a bit about climate risks and hazards, and how hazards intersect, and the impacts of climate change more broadly. Um, a bit of talking about why nature-based solutions as an option or gray-green infrastructure as an option, um, and ways to sort of engage across disciplines to have a bigger impact. Um, in week 2, we'll dive more into the types of nature-based solutions that align to different scenarios and different situations and habitats, and talk a bit about the benefits and challenges of using nature-based solutions in different situations. We'll talk about from some of the case studies, lessons learned from implementing these efforts. Um, Also phases of nature-based solutions, adaptation, so planning, the technical assistance, designing, implementing, monitoring, and evaluation, sort of when and how those things happen across a project. Also, in week 3, we'll discuss some of the policies around sort of implementing these and the enabling conditions to make it possible to do this work, and also hear from folks who are doing this on the ground and sort of what's helped them be successful. What were some of those learning curves that they faced? One of the speakers we'll have at that time, she is from a municipality that is pretty wealthy. And even they floundered at first of just how do we fund this? What can we do? Gaining the buy-in to even start trying to make traction on this work. And so she's going to talk a little bit about some of those dimensions of trying to start some of this projects when they're new to a community or new ways of thinking. These things aren't easy. And so we like to call them wicked problems, where there's lots of tangled pieces and different dimensions to be thinking about and talking about and considering when you're making change. So following that week, we'll also be thinking about and talking about social determinants of climate vulnerability, thinking through enabling factors for equitable training, outreach, engagement. Also thinking through, what is that engagement of the different communities? Who's leading the effort too? So some efforts you really want a more bottom-up approach. Others, it can be a mix. And so talking a bit through some of those equity dimensions and implementation there, and building partnerships to do this work well. Um, Following that, we'll start talking about different funding sources for coastal adaptation. We'll hear from particularly some folks at the federal level, so FEMA, Army Corps, NIFWIF, that kind of level. Other funding sources at the sort of state level as well, and how to sort of build some of those partnerships to for different stages of where a project is. So are you in a piloting phase? Are you even before that in just the planning ideation phase? How can you get some of this funded? Moving from there, once there's sort of a proof of concept, how do you implement an ongoing process? And so also in the following week from that, we'll dive a bit more into some of the innovations. How do you bring down sort of insurance risk or risk so that your insurance premiums come down, or other sort of alternate funding mechanisms? So that'll be sort of an innovation mechanism opportunity discussion. After that, we'll sort of talk about, data needs, data sources, what modeling or other, where can you build some of this that you need? Many of the funding opportunities require you to have some level of data or modeling done. So this, that week will help sort of dive into what that looks like, and where to start with that, and even move further along. And sorry, I have things blocking my my notes. And yeah, and so then our week 8 will be in person, and really it's going to be pulling all of these topics together into some practical skill building and application to real world problems. So trying to bring the theory to practice for everyone. And then the very last week is, like I said, sort of some optional pieces that'll help folks deep dive into a few different topics of interest. And that will also be some demonstrations from a few different modeling and other tool groups that we know.
And to
again,
build on that, before you go on to the next question, once we know who has registered for the course and what types of projects folks are working on, where they are in the process of sustainability and resilience projects, we will share that all with our speakers and lecturers to be able to better tailor to the folks in the room. You'll be able to ask questions no matter what stage of a project you're at. So something else to keep in mind.
And then part of the in-person will also be having some of those experts in the room and being able to be, during those working sessions, be a little bit roving or working directly with each team too. In terms of, so this is not an exhaustive list. Like I mentioned, we're missing a couple of our regional local folks also, and we have a few of our panels are still getting built out. So this is not a perfect list, but as some of the folks that you'll come in contact with. Some others include Tiffany Wise-West of Santa Cruz, who's the sustainability director. I always forget her full exact title. Janelle Kellerman is another person. She is part of the city council and former mayor of Marin. And then several others that we're still building out too. But this is part of our planning team, those who are engaging pretty deeply in each of the sessions. Any other questions? So like I said, not an exhaustive list, but there'll be some other experts that you'll get to know in the room as well.
Were you saying that some of the people on the slide were part of the planning team?
Yes, we've been engaging them for certain modules. For example, Carter and Guillermo have been particularly involved in helping us plan the modules around sort of innovative financing. Mike has been involved throughout and sort of as a core collaborator with the team. Renee has been helping us with some of the thinking around our equity engagement, having taught a number of equity engagement workshops. She's based down in the Gulf area. Chris May does a number of, she's helped design and write some of the national climate assessment chapters. And so, and then does a lot of extensive work here in California and elsewhere through her, through the Pathways Climate Institute that she founded and started. Janin works with FEMA, but does quite a lot around funding and financing for some of this work. And so she's been helping really support on some of the other financing module. Borja Reguero is helping support on the data and tools session as well. How does this course differ from the MS program? From our Coastal Science and Policy MS program, Diana? Just to clarify.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So the Coastal Science and Policy program also has a 2-year Master's of Science degree. That is a 2-year program where you take 1 year of classes here at UC Santa Cruz in person on a variety of dimensions. And then in your 2nd year, we have a practical oriented capstone project that gets co-designed with a non-academic partner where folks work full-time with a partner while also taking a weekly session with some of our faculty. I'd say it differs in that both in time and also level of where you are in your career. This course is really designed for a short 8 to 10 week course offering. So 9 weeks with the optional session. And for those working right now and not coming back to an like a full academic degree program. So it's a non-degree program. And we are headed towards it. We'll have sorry, Holly, give me the right word for the badges that we have. I guess it's a specialty. There's a specific word that UC Extension uses, but there is going to be a badge associated with having completed this that can be posted to, say, LinkedIn or used in sort of your CV or other things. Eventually, we may build this into a certificate course. It's not at that stage yet. It's a course right now. But at one point we may have multiple modules, multiple units that folks could take to build into a certificate. Through University Extension, I should clarify that too. So for this course, you would enroll under UC Extension, so not through UCSC degree granting programs, I guess. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I may as well turn my video on. Aloha from Maui.
Hi, good to see
Hi.
you.
Yeah, I think you were the one that did the info session on the masters. I
Yeah,
think.
last
Yeah,
fall.
years
Yeah, good to see you
ago.
again.
Yeah, nice to see you. I was wondering if you could possibly share a little bit about the case studies that you're hoping to include in terms of nature-based solutions. I'm curious if any of them are wetland restoration projects or dune
Yeah,
restoration projects, those kinds of things.
Yeah, at least one wetland. We're trying to determine which it'll be. It could either be, there's a lot of work in the South Bay of South San Francisco Bay Area. So that's one of the case studies we're looking at. We are also looking down in the Watsonville area. So Julie Beagle's helping lead some efforts there. That's partially there's sort of there's a river that runs through, and some of it's related to sort of the overflow that'll happen and has happened. We don't have all of the other examples mapped fully out, but
Yeah.
most will be sort of coastal ocean focused versus, say, wildfire or sort of inland. if that's
And I would
helpful.
say this is one of the areas that we want to be able to customize the course once we know who's going to be in the room, to make sure that we have examples relevant and applicable to those who are taking the course.
Okay, thank you. Sounds wonderful.
Thanks, Diana. Any other questions?
You said a little bit about this, but just wondering like the exact kind of practitioners that, you know, are you expecting that people will come in with specifically, you know, coastal, you know, ocean focused experience um, or bay experience, or people who are newer, and then what kind of roles?
Yeah, so range of roles. So anyone from insurance industry type folks who are doing some of these innovations or working with communities, nonprofit leads, to municipality practitioners working on sustainability. Um, we have also some folks at state and federal levels who have shown interest as well, and maybe are planning to be in the room as participants as well. So range, I'd say we've aimed it towards those who've been in the working world for a bit, not so much first year or still student. If that helps. So we've aimed towards folks who are doing this in their day job, and could range depending on where your organization is at in terms of implementation, but we envision a range of folks in the room. I will say that's actually something that surprised me. We did in deciding to build out this program, we actually hired a consultant to help us reach out and talk with a wide range of folks to hear, who would you like in the room? Would you rather it be really tailored, like I'm an engineer and that's all who I'm going to come in contact with? And we heard from folks actually they really desired a range of folks being in the room who they could build their network with. So I'd love to see an engineer. I'm a municipality person working on a specific project in my community, or so it surprised us that sort of narrow focus was actually requested not to have, and folks really wanted to meet a range of folks and build their network through this course. So that's who we've marketed the course towards and are hoping will be in the room at the end of the day. Yeah. Holly, I don't know if you have anything else you'd add on top of that, but yeah. Great. Sarah, does that help?
Yes, that's really helpful. Thanks. And that resonates with me for sure, you know, wanting a diversity of perspectives. Certainly something that's helped my work in resilience in other areas. So makes sense. Thanks.
Awesome. Great. Any other questions? I'm also happy to give folks a little bit of time back to their day, but want to make sure we've fully answered folks' questions too. And I'm happy to move back to other slides too, if there were questions on other slides or folks would like to hear a little deeper.
Sarah,
Okay.
hi, Brian Brennan with Beacon. And Beacon represents 6 coastal cities and 2 coastal counties. So I'm excited about, and I like the idea of the people that are bringing in the folks that are doing the work. I guess my question was focus on policy. We're trying to get our city members who are elected to actually start enacting the policies. Will we be focused on some of this, or obviously maybe making the connections and the networking certainly can lead to some of that also afterward, but I'm wondering, would there be a sort of a policies coming out of this that might be implementable by electeds?
We hope so. And also I think hearing from some of the folks, their successes and thinking about what were those enabling conditions that helped them implement. I think particularly our first nature-based solutions workshop will target some of that dimension. Or sorry, the second one, sorry, of like really bringing it to practice and the successes and how some of those policy pieces fit into that. also during our in-person, we're hoping to have at least one session, one of the working sessions sort of devoted to some of those other dimensions to like support any, like what are those policies? And we do envision, because we'll be drawing from the course some of those group questions and like pieces of work that folks wanna tackle. And so one group could be a policy focus group where that's what the group works on through that in-person session in each of the breakouts that we have. So that's definitely on the table and definitely something that folks could deep dive into during the course.
Excellent, excellent. And then one last thing, I know you're fortunate to have a local Coastal Commission officer in Santa Cruz, as I served on the Coastal Commission for 4 years myself. Will they be interacting? Do you expect, are you during the workshops, would be bringing in some of their policies or some individuals to sort of showcase some of those policies?
We have a bit of outreach. We haven't confirmed anyone as of this week. So it's a dimension we could also incorporate into our panels. So there's a couple of spots that we've kept open as we've been trying to hear more from those who are registering so that we can build out our panels to make sure that we're targeting what folks want to learn. And so that's easily, yes, we are hoping to include folks from Coastal Commission. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other final questions? Or it doesn't have to be final questions, I should say. Plus, if folks like, when I had a consulting hat previously, I used to always say, you know, later when you're brushing your teeth, you think of a question that you didn't ask in the session, you know, feel free to reach out to us. The email to reach us is at csp@ucsc.edu. I'll move our, yeah. So feel free to reach this email. That will reach both Holly and I. We check it basically daily. If for whatever reason your question doesn't get answered in, 48 hours, feel free to ping us again, but we're pretty on top of it. And that's a great way. We're always happy to either set up a follow-up chat or answer a quick question over email. Yeah, don't be shy. Well, again, a big thank you to everyone for joining us. I'm so glad to hear your interest, answer more questions. And yeah, we hope you register. And again, if you have further questions, do feel free to reach out. We're happy to answer them. Thanks, folks. Take care. Hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks all.